Hello, dear friends and supporters and lovers of tango all around the world. This is your host Alejandro Drago at Drago's Tango Alley, and this is the last video of the Piazzolla's Six Tango Etudes for Solo Flute and Violin series. This last video will be slightly different than the others in that it will consist chiefly of a run through with the violin while showing some relevant passages. As I said, there is a lot that had to be discussed about articulation and manner of playing, which has been discussed in the previous 5 videos, so I refer you to those videos. Some things that need to be discussed on a wider context, so there is no point of stopping on that material, on those concepts. On the basis of these etudes, you need to get more familiar with historical tango, traditional, golden decade tango, early tango, and things like this. In order to cover those bases, so to say, we'll have a different series through the Eurindia Edizione publisher in Switzerland. So stay tuned for that. In this case, we are dealing, as far as etude number 6 is concerned, with a not very elaborate ABA form, and I'm saying this because the A form is like the first A section is like a big chunk of what I would call stream of consciousness, based on certain elements that I will show in a second. Then there is a rather short intermediate section, slow, that reminds a lot of etude number 4 and some parts of etude number 2. So there is not a lot to say about it. And then there is a quick and very short recapitulation of the main motifs of the section A. So the B part of the ABA is more like a commentary on A than a true section. However, the other special thing about this etude that I wanted to mention is that in spite of having no key signature, meaning no alterations, no accidentals on the key signature, this is clearly on E minor. So there should be an F sharp, but there isn't. So this etude is still in E minor in spite of this, let's call it, accident. Okay, so main motif is the typical Piazzollian motif of anxiety, right? A 3-3-2 with some element of hemiola sometimes, and we do that on the lower part, lifting the bow, a bowing that I describe in many opportunities. Let's change the angle so that you can see the work of the bow a little bit. Okay. Okay. Every now and then you will be forced to substitute the 2 downs and up for 2 ups and up. This has happened before in other etudes I've analyzed. And the suggestion is exactly the same. You need to do your best to have the same kind of articulation. Let me take some distance here. Yeah. Okay. So that goes pretty much everywhere here. Later on you have this ornamentation elements. So it's good to say something here. When we arrive at this part, Sorry. We have these mordentes, right? There. We have these mordentes. They appear also in Melancólico Buenos Aires. They appear also in a number of compositions by Piazzolla. Now remember that on the bandoneon you can do them almost as double notes just by quickly, momentarily having an overlap of two sounds. On the violin you cannot afford that luxury, or I mean you could, but it would be more difficult than doing the normal mordentes. So since you have to do all the finger work here, this may prompt a little slowing down of the tempo. So be careful, help yourself with the bow, keep the fingers close, and make it really brief and short. Now let me show the hand better. Okay, so that's my next advice here. Which is, of course, different than the motifs you have at the end of the first page. Those are legitimate ornamentation. You don't really have any need to force the issue with the mordentes there. So, really, in terms of technique, there isn't anything new to say about this. That hasn't been said in etudes, at the very least 1, 3, 4, and 5. Even the rhythmic figures and the articulation figures are almost identical. They can be analyzed, separated, and they will match one by one. The next interesting yet somehow unpleasant passage is the arpeggios in the beginning of the second page. So I see two essential possibilities here for fingering. I mean, there is only one fingering I personally see working with a variation during 2 beats. One would be, I'm referring to the passage you should be seeing now. We use definitely this open string, okay? And then you can go second and third positions. And here, backward extension, and you are back in first position. Okay? Or you can go, rather than second and third positions and then extend back, you may as well go just first position and even half position. And then again using an empty string to redeploy the hand to a more standard fingering. That would be, and here 3, and you see we landed half position, and we use this open string to catch the F sharp first finger, and we go on with the first position. As for the rest of the fingering, well, in my opinion, no attempt at connecting in a fluid way is good here. I think we need to just admit that we are going to be dealing with chunks of fingering. Therefore, I suggest that we do first finger, empty string. Okay, so those 3 arpeggios, the B flat minor, the C minor, and the B minor. Even if that entails somehow cutting between them, I think they are better served by just treating them as standalone fingering units. So, sorry. Okay. I think that the fingering questions in the rest of them are pretty straightforward. I have some experience tried fingerings for the 2 sequences of string crossing arpeggios. One would be okay, like this at the beginning. But I don't think that you will be able to find those fingerings yourself. It's a pretty straightforward thing. I think that the idea is to keep the pattern as much as possible. So, and then for the second, here, which is a more elaborate variant of the same. Then again, I think this is not rocket science. The idea is try to conserve the pattern and help the bow really bring up the rhythmic and accentuation structures lying underneath or beneath. Then, as I said, we have this rather short menomoso, again tristemente. Now, for some reason in Italian, so without the grav accent. So, and this is not essentially different to what you heard in Etude number 4 or the central section of Etude number 2. Even it's an E minor, same as Etude number 4. No? Etc. So really, use what you know already, what you have heard, and then, well, as I said, you have the tempo primo. So, and here it's spelled out avec anxiété. Then again, we're in French. So I guess, and I can relate to that when you live in different countries and travel a lot and professionally and personally speak a number of languages, then of course your priorities in the use of languages get a little muddled. So we have either Italian indications or Spanish indications or French in this case. In fact, if you compare the indication of tempo at the beginning, it doesn't even say a tempo, it says avec anxiété, right? And then he says tempo primo, and together with the dynamic indication he puts avec anxiété. But I mean, this is purely anecdotal. What he means is same as the beginning, same attitude, same manner, okay? And of course, anxiety seems to be quite the theme in Piazzolla's work. I say for good reason. He was a man of his city, Buenos Aires, and he was a musician of the music of his city, Buenos Aires. So both by origin and by personality, he was a very vibrant, even aggressive and anxious individual, quite in tune with this permanent motion, vibrancy, and why not anxiety proper to Buenos Aires. So I would say that in this regard, it's no surprise that this characteristic appears in so much of his work. So this is pretty much all I want to say about Etude number 6. And not because there is not anything else to say. In fact, I would like to point out, yeah, that's a good thing I remember before we moved on. We find another misprint in the third line of the second page. You should be seeing it as is and corrected. Okay, so I don't know what happened with the engraving of this music, but if the people from Henri Lemoine are listening to me, well, first of all, kudos on your fantastic editorial work. But second, I think these etudes need a new engraving, or at least correcting the most egregious mistakes that are quite obviously mistakes. And I think it's a prime time for a violin edition, a professional violin edition, not just the plain text. A violin edition based on the technique of the violin as such, and the tango performance practices for violin. That's my opinion. I may even consider proposing such a thing to them. but if you're listening, I think this is something worth doing. Because many of the things I explained could be fixable, you know, for the vast body of professional and advanced student violinists who want to play this and are honestly, professionally concerned about stylistic characteristics of how they play Piazzolla. So while style cannot be spelled out, you can spell out a lot of things that make part of that style, and that would be the purpose of a thorough, comprehensive and professional edition. But then again, until such a time, I hope my listeners have now enough elements to improve their, how to call it, tango-ness, the tango spirit of the performance of these etudes, and that they would be prompted to research more into Piazzolla's own work as a performer and a composer, and as well, and this is very important and I will never get tired of underscoring this, as well as traditional historical tango by other performers and other composers. This is the tradition on which Piazzolla's music grew up. He developed it, and he not only developed it as an accident of life on these grounds, he purposefully wanted his music to be rooted in this tradition. Please do understand that. It's not a coincidence. It's not like poor guy didn't know how to play another music. He wanted his music to be tango, okay? Modern tango, advanced tango, 20th century tango, whatever you would call it. Nuevo tango eventually was called, right? But nevertheless tango. So he always saw this organic link of how to say, link of pedigree with the traditional tango, and those who are serious about playing Piazzolla's music should trace that link to understand how his music is the modern heir of the traditional tango, which is, by the way, pretty much alive as an art form. It's not like it died out, same way as just because Wagner advanced tonal harmony or the dodecaphonists, the Viennese school came up with the 12-tone technique, that doesn't mean that Baroque music or classical music or romantic music stopped being played, or that those traditions died out, right? So with this little reflection, I thank you for following this series, and I provided a number of captioning up to the second part of the second video, of the second etude, sorry. I will add captions only for the rest of them, only upon request. So if you really feel that you would want some specific language added to this, let me know. You have a link in the channel about section. You even have an email that you can use there, okay, to contact me. I wish you all the best. Stay healthy, stay active, stay creative, stay productive, and see you soon.